Give me 1 second. Hi, Graham.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi,
I
Graham.
have a little bit of a cough. Sorry.
Oh, no.
All right, Catherine, you may go ahead.
Just allergies. Okay, I'll bring the meeting to order. This is the September 2022 edition of our Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, and our last before the municipal election. We have an interesting agenda here. I think that this should be a good meeting. We will begin with the presentations. We have a presentation on the making public spaces accessible and inclusive for hard of hearing residents.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, thanks, Stephanie.
Welcome, Stephanie.
You're taking
Welcome.
Thank you. I feel so honored to be part of today's agenda, and it's so nice to meet you all virtually. Hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person. Yes. So Tammy, I'm just going to see if I can share my screen here. I think I was able to get my Mac to allow me to share. Let me know if
That's
you
good.
can see.
If you can just make it a full screen.
I sure will. I sure will.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yay, I passed the test today. I'm in technology, so you think that I should know how to do that, right? So I'm going to do my best to keep this to 10 minutes. I've got my little clock on right in front of me to respect everyone's time. Obviously, this conversation is something that is difficult to speak about in 10 minutes, as I'm sure all of you could recognize, but I'm going to do my very best to keep it high level. And then certainly if we need to have a follow-up meeting or any of you want to reach out to me one-on-one, I encourage you to do that. My contact information is obviously in the presentation, which I believe each of you have a copy of. So I am Stephanie Brown. I am co-owner of Hearing Assistive Technology Group. My partner is Mark Gagnon. Mark and I met many years ago working at Bell Canada. Please don't tell me any of your Bell stories because I've heard them all and I know everyone has one. So hence why I've now moved over to really truly being able to help people by providing technology solutions that are really going to make a difference, not only in our communities here in Ontario, but really globally. What we're doing right now in Canada, we're quite late to the game. We because of our legislation, obviously, it has not been mandated that people that have hearing loss are provided with accommodations in public spaces, whereas in places like Europe and even in the United States, hearing loops specifically have become a technology that many people have deployed, and it's become part of legislation actually with the ACA in the US. And my daughter just returned from Europe, a summer trip, and she took pictures of multiple hearing loops all over Europe. And it was such a pleasure to see how, you know, in the UK specifically, they really have adopted this technology. And that's actually how it came to North America. There was a lovely doctor who is a psychologist who was at a museum in Scotland, found out about hearing loops, and then made it his mandate to let the rest of North America know about this amazing technology. So myself and Mark partnered with a company called Contacta, based out of the United Kingdom. They are our manufacturing partner, and they've been around for over 50 years. They're the global leader in providing hearing assistive technology, not only hearing loops, but also radio frequency and infrared technology. But today I really want to focus on hearing loops because we really do believe that that is where the most power lies, because of the fact that it is a passive technology and there's no requirement for someone with hearing loss to have to put on an additional headset or device if they are equipped with something called a telecoil. So I'm going to get into that in my presentation. So just some facts here about hearing loss. I'm sure most of you already know some of these statistics, but the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association has pulled together some stats here that I think are very telling as to where we are as a country. as we all know, hearing loss is an invisible disability, right? We don't know when someone has hearing loss. So it's very difficult for us to identify this. So as community members, I think, we can really do a great job of doing our best to make accommodations and really help them hear well. So we have actually partnered with the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association as their technology partner nationally to really help drive some of the mandates that they're going to be taking to the government of Canada, and hopefully follow suit to what they've done in other countries to make the legislation very powerful and make specific recommendations. So again, I'm sure most of you have already had a look at some of these statistics, but I really want to get into the technology itself, because I have a feeling there might be some questions as a result of it. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about stats, but I think that this visual is very telling in a sense that we all have someone in our life that has hearing loss. For me, it's my mom. And when they are in public spaces, it's very difficult for them to hear properly. So one-on-one interactions with people that wear a hearing aid or a cochlear implant can be, fairly normal. But as soon as someone that has hearing loss gets into a public space where there's high ceilings, reverberation, distortion, unfortunately, that sound takes over. And it has a lot to do with the level of sound and how it's being received into the microphone. So I think that this visual is very powerful, because it's obviously perfect hearing looks perfectly clear, and then impaired hearing, it's very difficult. And what winds up happening, as I'm sure some of you are aware, is that people that are hard of hearing do not want to go into public spaces like this because it's so problematic. And but much like we were talking earlier about the blurred screen, not hearing properly can really have an effect on our brains and how we receive information over time. And of course, there's a correlation to dementia as well over time. So what can we do as community members to help these folks when they're out in these spaces? Well, what we've done is we've learned from the HLAA in the US by a program that they created called Get in the Hearing Loop. And with their permission, we chose to partner with the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association to launch a similar campaign to really get awareness and education out into the public about why hearing loops are great, why they work well, and certainly have sessions just like this where people can ask questions and learn more about how we can help within some of these challenging areas. So what is a hearing loop? Well, a hearing loop is pretty simple technology. Copper wire, just like, the landline that comes into our house, which probably most of us don't necessarily use anymore. That's essentially what a hearing loop is an aerial or a copper wire that's in a specific area attached to an amplifier and then a sound source. So what happens is when someone has a hearing aid or a cochlear implant that has a telecoil installed in it, it grounds the sound source. So for someone that has a hearing aid that's got the telecoil in it, all they simply need to do is hold down the button or switch it from on-off position to activate the telecoil. For someone with a cochlear implant, it's automatic, seamless. And why we think that this really works well is, again, there's no additional equipment required. It's seamless, it's inclusive. There's no equipment that you have to go to a counter and say, can I please check this out? And then when it's returned, there's sanitation required, those types of things. These are the reasons why hearing loops are really the preferred methodology that we choose to lead with as a solution when we're looking at a specific area to help remove those barriers, those sound barriers. And as it says on the top of this of this slide, hearing loops are installed in millions of locations. So again, using Europe as an example, they even have them in taxi cabs. So you jump into a taxi cab, you've got a loop. You're on a bus, there's the sign, the international symbol for the telecoil and the hearing assistance. That is the international symbol that you will see if a loop is present within a space. So I'm not sure if any of you have recognized that symbol or have seen it anywhere, but certainly that's really the reason why I wanted to present today, is because we're having a huge success in meeting and helping other municipalities here in Ontario. And I can talk more about that later. So here's a large area hearing loop. So a large area hearing loop could be deployed in a theater setting, in a meeting room. And as you'll see, the very first thing you need here is a sound source. So audio from a sound source, such as an AV system or a microphone. So you'll see in this representation, there's someone at the front of the room presenting. They would be considered the sound source. The second component is the driver or the amplifier. So the wire itself is hooked up to that to allow for the magnetic field, which then is converted into the looped area. Once the looped area receives that signal, and those are the lines that are going on the floor in the diagram here, it can be installed in the floor. It can actually also be installed in a ceiling, in a drop ceiling. Once that magnetic field is delivered, it goes directly into the person's ear. So there's no background noise that they're having to deal with. It's a direct sound source being received. And I can tell you, as someone that has witnessed people hear this for the first time, it's incredibly moving. It's a very emotional experience because their whole face changes. It's quite wonderful, actually. In the bottom right here, you're going to see this is a visual representation of the hearing aid itself, and the telecoil is so small within that device, but so powerful and so important. Okay, so I just wanted to hopefully explain it in a way that everyone will kind of understand exactly what it is, because I've found in the past it is a little bit hard to grasp how the hearing aids or how the hearing aid connects with the loop itself, but hopefully this visual diagram will help out. If it won't, please take the opportunity to ask me any questions right now. Okay, so I guess we're good. The other area where we can deploy hearing loops is at service counters. And this is really where we've been having quite a good uptake within municipalities, is with the service counters, specifically within town halls, community centers, libraries, anywhere where there's a barrier that's been put up that has really caused issues with communicating. So it's not just the folks that are hard of hearing that are going to be benefiting from these types of systems that we've been deploying, which are called speech transfer systems or window intercom systems, which I have a slide later to represent. Also install the hearing loop with those systems, so that the hearing loop is there for those that require it, for the accessibility component, but there's also for all of us who are just struggling to hear, because now there's a glass barrier that's between us and potentially a mask, which is also, really making it problematic. So this is an area where I feel we could really help the city of Barrie to make some improvements, because I'm sure that this is something that each of you have experienced, maybe not only yourselves, but maybe some feedback from some of the staff that are working in these spaces. So again, there's a magnetic signal that goes out to the client on the other side who may be hard of hearing, and the driver is installed under the counter, and the microphone is sitting on the desk, and boom, they can hear that sound source directly into their hearing aid, in a sense where there would be someone who would just be utilizing the natural sound coming across. There's a speaker and a microphone on both sides of the counter for all of us who just need maybe a little bit of extra help. We also know that hard of hearing people may not always have a hearing aid or a telecoil enabled hearing aid. So again, those speech transfer systems are really helpful for those folks as well. But again, this is specifically a representation of the loop itself at the counter, because those can be deployed separately, just so you know. Some benefits and considerations with loops: universally accepted, the compatible with the telecoil, as I mentioned, discrete installation, it can go under flooring or above ceiling tiles, no additional equipment required. Another big one, no sound latency, there's no delays, so it's an immediate transfer of sound into the instrument itself. And again, low maintenance, IEC standards are followed with all installations that we do specifically. Some other considerations that we have are that at times they can be costly and susceptible to electronic magnetic interference, or EMI, but we will do testing before doing any deployments to ensure that the environment is capable of having a loop deployed and that will still sit within standards. When it comes to the cost, we've been working very closely with CHA, or Canadian Hard of Hearing, to help different agencies or organizations source government funding and grants, which has been very successful to date. But again, I know that a lot of organizations, specifically municipalities, generally have had some funds kind of carved out, leading up to OWADA and the legislation that we're all working towards to 2025. So again, that's a conversation we can have offline if that's something anyone wants to discuss with me further. Okay, so the next slide, these are the window intercom systems that I mentioned earlier. So this specific one here is actually at Service Halton Hills. So here's the little speaker where the customer will be able to hear through. This is the microphone that's mounted directly onto the glass. And then behind this glass, there's a little gooseneck microphone right there. It's kind of hard to see with the shadow, but that would be the microphone that the staff member would speak into. And then here is the magic, everyone. This is the telecoil, or sorry, the hearing loop, which the sound will come outward towards the person standing, and the telecoil in their device would receive that sound. Now, the aerial is actually built into this sign. So you'll see in each of the images, the sign is deployed right there on the counter. Okay, so this is City of Burlington right here at one of their, they use the bridge bar system at this particular location. And I think this one might be Oakville. Yes, I believe this is Oakville. So we've been doing quite a bit of work in Halton, which is where I'm located, just so you all know. So these have been fantastic, and they generally run between $1,700 to $2,100, just in case you're wondering. And that is, again, inclusive of the hearing loop. It comes with that kit. In fact, we will not deploy a kit without it, because we're such big believers in ensuring that counters are accessible for everyone. So here's some images of some large deployments we've done. This here is the Burlington Senior Center, where we installed the loop up in the ceiling. And so their auditorium is looped. They actually looped all 4 of their general rooms in the Burlington Senior Center. And we've also worked with the Bowmanville Older Adult Association, which I believe this image here, as well as this one, you can see the loops are actually deployed right on the floor. So they can go under carpet. We also have safety tack where we can ensure that it's directly to the floor, no tripping hazard. We can make it actually blend in quite nicely. But in both of these cases, there was flooring that was put on top, so it was discreet and hidden away. And the next slide here is, again, just for your own information. I wanted to ensure that I had some comparisons between hearing loop technology, which is officially known as induction loop, but we call it, from a marketing perspective, hearing loop. So hearing loop versus infrared and radio frequency technology. This is just a little chart that kind of gives you some of the differentiators between the 3 technologies, which, again, we do sell all 3, but you'll see from here that there are some advantages and disadvantages of both. And I realize I'm way over time here, so I'm just going to try and wrap up here. These are the services that we deploy at the Hearing Assistive Technology Group, which HAT Group for short is how we have coined ourselves. So we'll come into a space, we'll do an assessment, we'll make a design recommendation, then we complete the installation ourselves. We oversee everything between myself and Mark. Here is the key here is engagement. This is the piece where we really have differentiated ourselves is we come into your space and we work with you and we encourage you to bring community members and stakeholders as part of these sessions because we really, really love to get their feedback. And the last one on the list here is maintenance. We also offer maintenance within the first year of installation. And then after the first year, we can set up a program for maintaining these systems. But the wonderful thing about these systems is they require very, very minimal maintenance. And we're happy to provide any type of feedback or referrals to other organizations that we've worked with that may be able to answer any questions that each of you have on working with us specifically. But I'll now open it up to each of you to see if there's any questions that you have for me based on what you've seen today.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm going to jump in really quickly.
Sure.
Just to say, we actually have an induction loop for our service counter in City Hall.
Okay.
Our previous, one of our previous accessibility advisory committees brought that to our attention. And I think we had it installed in 2018. But because our committees change over time, when you reached out, I thought it would be excellent to introduce this idea to everybody here, especially because we have more spaces than just our City Hall. Yes. And I love that the last couple slides there were with regards to event spaces, because I think that's so cool. You know, we have a lot of seniors, like most municipalities in Ontario. You know, seniors are people, and they're a large representation of our communities, and they're very active in our municipal programming. So I think I really love that you guys can do that. Thank you for sharing that.
Not a problem. We actually are also members of the OACAO, which is the Ontario Older Adults Association. So that's how we started working with some of the organizations we've worked with, including in Halton. We've done some work with the Hillsview. And we were actually yesterday and the day before in Ottawa, and we were at the Eastern Ottawa Resource Center, and we're face-to-face witnessing the interactions and the programming and how, you know, we can take what we know to be great technical solutions and apply them within specific settings. And it's just so lovely to see that the older adults are getting out and talking to each other and dancing and playing music and just like, I wanted to jump in there with them. They were having such a great time. And because my mom lives in Ottawa and she was extremely isolated up until the point that she went into assisted living. So to see that the community themselves offers these programs to again keep that interaction and that connection, like truly connection is key. We don't understand, even though we're not face to face, we're still communicating, talking, thinking, our brains are working. And this is a huge issue. We really need to have seniors feel that they can be in a space where not only they can have fun, but also that they can understand what's going on. Because if they go to that space and they are not hearing things properly, they're not going to come back. It's as simple as that. And you know, it's a very strong statement for me to say this, but I am going to say it as a country. It's kind of shameful that we're where we're at, and we have not thought about putting this as a priority. And I'm very, very proud to do this at this stage in my life and to really help people be able to hear properly. And I'd love to, as I said, have any type of follow-up sessions with yourselves or any other key stakeholders within the city of Barrie of how we can help, because it's not just about deploying the technology. As I said, it's really about getting involved in that engagement model and helping people to say, hey, does your hearing aid have a telecoil, right? That's a big question right now. A lot of people don't know. They have no idea. So here's some handouts to take to your audiologist. Here's some information. So that, again, is part of that campaign that we've launched. There's tons of information that we can provide as supporting assistance, documents. So
thank you. I see Heather has a question.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. one is just for my own peace of mind. I know that there's some medical technology that doesn't deal well with magnetic spaces, things including pacemakers, which are also quite prevalent in the same population group that you're talking about. I'm assuming that that is not an issue, but you know, it would be nice to just have a quick peace of mind on that. And
Yes.
then I'm also curious whether it's possible to use the technology in outdoor spaces, such as you know, we have an outdoor theater space right downtown in Barrie. Is that a helpful or possible option?
Yes. So to answer your first question, Heather, first of all, amazing question. I've only had one other person ask me that, and she was part of the accessibility committee in City of Burlington. And the answer is this equipment is completely safe. There's no issues with pacemakers. It does not emit any type of EMI. It's very, very, very safe. And I can send through a statement that comes directly from Contacta. If you would like to have that in writing, I'd be happy to share that with you. I'm just going to make a note of it to ensure I get that over to Cheryl and Tammy. So to answer your second question, outdoor spaces, absolutely. Yes, we've been able to loop theaters that are permanent outdoor spaces. And again, there is a way to, if there's concrete, one of the really cool ways that loops can be laid is to score the concrete with a very, very small divot so that the cable could just lay very, very low within that. And then it's just covered up over top. So it becomes a permanent solution in an outdoor area. Temporary spaces we can do as well. In fact, we're looping a theater for an accessible comedy show in Montreal on the 25th of September, where again, that safety tack is used to have it go directly onto the floor. So after the event, we're hoping they're going to keep it, but we're rolling the dice on this one and saying, again, to get the people talking about it, get the awareness and the advocacy in place. Sometimes we have to do things in order to make that happen. So we're going to go out and we're going to install it temporary onto the floor with the safety tack. The lead technical installer for hearing loops in North America has had safety tack on his driveway in Wisconsin for 13 years. Snow, rain, sleet, chemicals, this stuff is not coming up. Nobody's going to trip on it. It is absolutely solid. So there's always a way. We just came back from a conference in Chicago last week where another partner showed us how he deployed a temporary hearing loop in an outdoor gazebo. And he got these audio stands and then just hung the actual wire around on these stands, and it worked beautifully. Again, not necessarily for a permanent solution, but certainly great for a temporary solution. If you were having an event that was being run and you wanted to make it accessible, we could certainly accommodate. We're very creative is the best way to put it. We always want to find a solution that's going to work not only for you, but again, for the end user. If the end user is not going to benefit, then we're wasting our time. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Heather, or both your questions.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else have any questions?
So just as a quick info, a cute story is as I had reached out to you and your accessibility email address. I actually did the same with another local municipality, and we did a pilot program where we put 2 of our speech transfer window intercom systems. They're referred to both interchangeably, so I apologize if I changed the term. We installed 2 within their town hall, and within 3 weeks, the buzz went throughout this entire city that's probably a similar size as yours, and now we're deploying 40 of them. Every single window, parking garages, the engineering departments, like everyone wanted them. And I think it's because there was just such a huge excitement about why don't we know about this? Why do we not? And there's anti-theft units as well, just so you know, like ones that cannot be pulled off. Sorry. Can
you share the municipality's name?
Yes, I certainly can. It was the city of Guelph.
Guelph. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think ours is great. I really am happy that we have it. I would like to have them in our rec centers and our library. And when we got ours, I was so excited about it because my former boss, our former director of HR, is actually deafened. She was hard of hearing at one point, but now she's like seriously deafened, and she's considering a cochlear implant, but she's been wearing hearing aids for years and years and years. So for her, it was like eureka when we got it, and we were really excited about it. And so I tried to inspire the library to get on board too. And they were interested, but I think they were going to do some renovations, so maybe the timing wasn't right. And I tried to sell it. Well, not sell it, but sell the idea to our police officers, our police services. And I think you need to see that emotional experience, like that like I'm not hearing impaired, so I'm telling them how great it is. I'm giving them like the skinny on the technology, but I got so excited about it because I could see my former boss, how impactful it was for her.
Yeah.
So that element that, of really, it's like a vulnerability that people don't realize, that people who are hard of hearing spend 90% of the conversation reading your lips, looking for cues, all this kind of stuff. Like, I think they should probably go into lie detection or something, because they could probably read body language better than most people.
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be great if we could have lots of other places. And I like your thinking, Heather, the theater, the outside, our Meridian Place, that would be amazing. And we do have seniors event spaces. So food for thought, everyone. I think we might have to advocate for some of our event and culture departments to really take this under consideration. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I see
Yeah.
that Councillor Thompson has a question.
Thanks, through you, Chair. Just curious, is it easier for installation on new builds, as like a home, for example, you'd rough in, basement washrooms or something? Like, we are
Yes.
planning some new rec centers and stuff like that. So, and we've just opened a new library in the Holly. I was just wondering if it's more efficient to do
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yes, in a large area, it would certainly make sense to do that during construction. We're actually working on a project right now for a church, and they're relocating to a new space where they're completely renovating that space. So before the flooring goes down in that church, we will go in and we will install the wiring and make sure that that is all in place prior to the floor being laid on top. So absolutely, and it's actually part of legislation as well for new builds, right? As part of OWADA, is that any new builds moving forward have to make accommodations for disabilities. And of course, hearing loss being the invisible disability would fall within that. So one of the things that we've been doing is working with some of the local engineering firms as they're receiving RFPs that's including this component, then they know, oh, well, we've got this partner locally that can help us out. So it's great to be able to work with, not only the direct end users, but also, these engineering firms that are being held responsible to source this, and they really don't have the knowledge to be able to know how to get this done. So we're hoping that we can help them with that. So, and this isn't just a new build thing. This is, if we think about all the spaces where people that are hard of hearing struggle, like even a grocery store. I think about a pharmacy. Could you imagine if someone did not get the right information from their pharmacist about how to take their medication? Hospitals, health clinics. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, right? And these are spaces that I know that might not necessarily fall within your realm, but again, it just gets you thinking about, as Cheryl was saying, putting yourself in that person's shoes and understanding how difficult it could be. And Cheryl, thank you for sharing that about how it resonated with you to see the change, because you can't really describe that to someone when you've experienced it. It's just so impactful and so it's wonderful. And again, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, because it's just, it's a wonderful thing to do, to be able to make that difference.
Great.
So I hope I
Thank you.
answered your question, Councillor Thompson. I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a rant there.
No, thanks. And I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
No
Thanks.
problem. My pleasure. My pleasure.
That's very helpful. But I just think of one instance where it would be really beneficial to have this, and that is the police services. When you think of individuals who are going to the police for some reason, they don't go into the police station to say, have a nice day. They go in with something that is troubling them, or they have to report on something, and to not be able to hear or understand because you can't hear, your instruction or that kind of comment. I know with my hearing aids, that would drive me crazy if I couldn't hear what was going on.
Absolutely. And Catherine, do you know if you have a telecoil in your hearing aid?
I don't know. I'm going to have to check.
Yes. If you'd like to email me, I'll send you that audiology handout that you can take to your audiologist, and then she'll say,
wonderful.
somebody's on their mission. Someone's on a path. And
Nope, that sounds great.
Let me just share a very quick story before we get to Yolanda's question. So when I took my mom to get fitted for her hearing aids about 1.5 years ago in Ottawa, the hearing clinic I took her to was one that was referred to me by the government, because she qualified for a grant, or I guess a subsidized rate. And I asked them, I didn't say a word about what I do for a living, waited till the very end, till she did her presentation on what she felt was the best suited hearing aids. So I said, so does it include a telecoil? And she said, no. Why would I include a telecoil? And I said, well, why wouldn't you include a telecoil? And she said, because there's nowhere in Ottawa that's looped. And I thought, well, that's a bit backwards, because even if they were looped, like, so it's kind of like putting the chicken before the egg analogy. What we're now doing is we're advocating within the associations of audiology to train the audiologist why Bluetooth is not the answer for everything. And that's really what they're pushing right now. So I know my 79-year-old mother is not going to use Bluetooth. I know that Bluetooth is really an amazing technology, because again, my background is in technology, right? I understand what Bluetooth is. I know where it's powerful. It's not going to work well in public spaces. And I also know you need a phone and you need an app. Like, there's so many, adaptations that need to happen to make that work. Again, hearing loops are amazing because you just walk into it, push the button. Nobody even needs to know.
And that's another point that's very, very valuable, for sure.
Yes. So again, Catherine, please reach out to me and I'll send you that little handout so you can go to your audiologist and shake the tree a little bit, so to speak.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you send that to Tammy and Stephanie, and then we'll just send it out to the entire group, and then Catherine can reach out to you independently, or anybody else can reach out to you independently should they want to.
Amazing.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Yolanda had a question.
I do. Yeah, just a comment. This is spectacular stuff, and like Cheryl said, there's lots of places in Barrie that we could probably use it. Just to support what Cheryl was saying about advocating and promoting this, and just the testimonial that Cheryl gave herself about her boss. Do we have videos or testimonials from different individuals or businesses or groups that have it, so that it will support our plea to have it installed in different places here in Barrie?
Absolutely. I have endless amounts of videos and content and supporting documentation. I had the pleasure of meeting the most lovely audiologist by the name of Dr. Juliet Sturkins, who is really the one that has been single-handedly responsible for advocating for loops within the United States. So myself and Mark traveled across the border in December. We spent the day with both Juliet and Dr. Myers, who is that lovely psychologist I told you about at the beginning of the story. And Dr. Myers is actually the person who wrote the Introduction to Psychology textbook that's used all through colleges and universities in the United States. So because he was so taken with this technology, he formed a foundation that he funds through the money that he made through writing this textbook to pay for Juliet to work for the HLAA to advocate for hearing loops globally. So if I called her right now and I said, I need you to come to Toronto and do a presentation to the audiologists, I have a feeling I know how that would get funded. And to me, that is the most beautiful story, because like people like that still exist in this world. Like, it's just incredible. He would never tell anyone that. I learned that directly from Juliet in sitting down and meeting with her. And I thought to myself, this is a really special group of people that I'm surrounding myself with. And I just love to share that, because I think it's so impactful to share that with you as a group, so that you understand, as I'm sharing these resources with you, these people have really put their heart and soul into gathering this content so that people truly understand the power behind the loops. So long answer short, I can definitely send you some videos. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Cheryl, next steps?
You're on mute. That's like the right now. We don't have any next steps, unfortunately, because we're at that weird cuspy time where we're going into like a municipal election in October. But I've taken some notes on which departments internally with the city that we can approach for interest in in the new year kind of thing, in addition to our external partners such as Barrie Police and others. But my biggest wish for having Stephanie come is to inspire all of you, because one of the things that it's very easy for us to do is to get kind of in our little narrow kind of passion projects and have our own personal experiences with disability and accessibility, and not necessarily have that broader view. And so Stephanie's really brought that broader view for us. So that's excellent. I really appreciate that, Stephanie. Thank you so much for your presentation. And we'll make sure that if we have anybody with a kernel of interest, that we loop back to you. I think there's people here individually who will be interested to loop back, but from a municipal perspective, if we are able to advance the counter loop system in other spaces, I really love that, again, that event space idea. That's really great. But we will definitely reach back out to you.
Amazing. That's wonderful news. And as I mentioned, we are very, very solution oriented and very flexible. So again, if a pilot project is something that the city of Barrie would want to initiate with us, we're very open to doing that. Again, it's something that we're so confident with the solution and how it performs that we're not afraid to take these risks, right? And because we know where this is going, we understand the impact it's making, and we just want to continue that momentum. And I would really like to thank each of you for taking the time to allow me to, help advocate today for these community members, because again, it's such an important initiative. And I look forward to hearing from you again soon. And thank you once again.
Thanks so much,
Thank you very
Stephanie.
much, Stephanie.
Take care.
Okay. Have a
Take
great
care.
rest of your meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye. Okay, so we will move on to our next item, agenda item number 2, which is Our discussion items, 2.1, design and construction, public stakeholder survey and open house consultation. Right.
That's myself. So,
Hi, Graham.
hi, everybody. Wow, that was an interesting topic, isn't it? Holy cow. I was wasn't even aware of that. So that's a great thing to include in all the different projects that the city does around here, right down to like nursing homes. I know my mother has that same issue. I remember my great grandmother, she'd be close up into the TV like this, trying to hear stuff. And she'd put her, say, talking to my ear, and just having that technology nowadays is just fantastic. So, anyway, that's just my little side stories there. I think it affects everybody. So, but myself, through you, Madam Chair, to the group, my name is Graham King. I work in the design and construction branch here at the city. We look after all the road reconstructions and basically the main stuff that we do. And in my department, I look after the project controls, and I look after schedules and costs, and provide the tools to the project managers so that they can get the project done, again, on time and on budget. And one of the main things that we've discovered, which we kind of knew all along, was when we had to do public open houses. That's a great tool to get people's feedback on the projects and find out how that affects the people, the people that are driving through the sites, people that live in the sites. We started doing during the design process. We're trying to get feedback from the group at that time too. And then when construction projects are about to start, we're starting to have open houses at that point. And that way we let people know what is happening the next little while. And then at the end of construction, we want to do a survey to say, how did we do? Did we do what we say we're going to do? And so we used to do this with just an open house at the, down in the council, down in the rotunda, where you had different displays that you'd walk around and have people escort you around. And that was pre-COVID. So now we've had our COVID. And so now people have been, I guess their expectations are that we do things, open houses like we're doing right here, right? Or do we do slideshows and just put them on the webpage? Those types of things. So that's why I'm here, is to try to get some feedback from the accessibility committee to see if, what has worked in the past, what would you like to see? And so this is really a discussion back and forth as opposed to me presenting something to you. So I'd really like to, I'm sure everyone has been to an open house, whether it's online or on in the rotunda. Has everyone been to one before? Yes? All right. So hopefully that was a positive experience. We think that there's when you're going to these open houses, whether it's online or on site, there's two things. There's the project itself, which is everyone may not disagree or may not agree with it. However, but it's also how that information is being presented, and making sure that at least we tell you the story, and we provide you an opportunity to provide some constructive feedback. And that's what I'm here today to discuss about what is the best way to do this. And so right now we've got, there's two things that I'm looking at right now is the survey, because we do surveys sometimes as part of our construction process. I was involved with a project where we actually had we went out for feedback, and we got some really good feedback, and we had asked questions to our audience, to the public, and they helped actually influence the design, and we made it such a better project. And that's a great thing. I mean, everyone really is enjoying the project right now. And there's others that we do too that have impacted the project about where an actual building is going to get put. And so we really, I do appreciate, and it's valuable information that we receive. But we want to make sure that everyone receives it and has an opportunity, because there's if you have an open house that's in the middle of a park, then people with mobility issues may not be able to come to that. And if we did an open house right out on site of the project, a little walkway, and can people actually get with their wheelchairs, their walkers to that? It's a great idea. We want to make sure that we get as much input as we can. And if they can't get to it, then at least we try to make accommodations so that they can visit the site afterwards, or provide input another way. So we're really looking forward to that input, and we want to make sure that people have that opportunity. So like I said, the one thing that we do with is surveys, and typically what we do is, excuse me, you may have heard of SurveyMonkey. When you do surveys, you can write in your questions, and we post it on the web page, and then people go to that survey and they fill out the survey, and it's either ranked questions, or it's option A, B, C, or D, or none of the above. And there's also spots for or not handwritten, but for notes. You can write in your own answers. So that's some of the stuff that that's one of the typical survey that we do. And I've got, I can share my screen where I can show you one that we're doing for the construction. Maybe I spoke too soon about sharing something with you. There we go. Okay, what do you see?
Public feedback survey.
Perfect. All right. So this is one of what we're doing. And this is a survey at the end of the project where the construction is done, and we want to get some feedback to see how we did. Good or bad, we want to hear how we did. So we talk about, was the project purpose, scope, and schedule and justification clearly explained? Yes or no? And again, these are just typical questions. How did you receive communication updates? The city webpage, Service Barrie, project site signage, and so on and so forth. Word of mouth. Are project updates communicated frequently enough? Did the city's webpage provide useful information about the project? And there's only 10 questions or so. And just letting us know how things work, how things worked out. And it says, please provide your contact name and number if you wish to discuss further. So if someone had an issue, or if someone had an issue and you want to talk a little bit about it more, say your concerns weren't addressed, there's a phone number there that you can reach us and you can talk to the project manager about. And it's also not just bad things. We like to know if we're doing anything right, because that way we can take this information and say, okay, this worked this time on this project, so let's do that the same for the other project, the next project. And that way, hopefully our projects get better and better, and less effects on the public. So this is the type of survey. Again, were any construction impacts here properly, effectively communicated? So these are, I guess, if you want to call it, our typical questions. I'm going to stop sharing here for a sec. So with that, is there questions that you would like to ask that have affected, how was accessibility affected, whether it be hearing or mobility, any of those types of things that you say, you know what, I wish someone would ask me that question. I'm just wondering, after a construction project, is there anything that you'd like to ask? or want to be asked about something.
I think that Heather would like to say something. Heather?
Yeah, if I'm hearing you correctly, Graham, and first of all,
Yeah.
thank you for your presentation, and for the question. You're looking at what we do moving forward in terms of seeking input from residents around construction projects.
Yep.
Now that we're sort of in this whatever new again reality. And I think that one of the things that I'm really struggling with as someone with a mobility device is that we have, in the rush for all those who are eager to get back to in person for all of the reasons that they have, we have rapidly left behind those for whom the pandemic was actually a huge boon to their accessibility. And so one of the things that crosses my mind is I often see, for a lot of projects, there'll be two public meetings, one during the day and one during the evening, for example. And I wonder whether it might be possible to use a bit of a hybrid format in that one would be an in-person meeting and one would be an online meeting, so that people had some choice around what would be the best for their accessibility. Because the more I talk to people, the more I realize that, what works for my accessibility doesn't always work for other people's. I think that being able to navigate those different factors together, if we can, would be ideal. And obviously the surveys give us a third route for those for whom audible information isn't the best method for them to approach the information, and a visual is better. So I think the more that we can do that sort of universal design option, the more valuable feedback the city will be able to access from residents.
Okay, well, that's great. That's a great idea, and I think hopefully we've covered that off with our in the next part of it. And because I'm with you. I think that's a great idea to have, one online and one on site. But that's because there's another couple little hybrids too that we could talk about.
Yeah, Graham, I would certainly support that too. I'm involved with presentations to seniors, and we did a survey, and only 40% said that they wanted to come back to the site, and the rest would prefer the hybrid model. And we have tickets out for sale now, and certainly that ratio is still holding true. So there's people right now who are very worried about going out into crowds, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And, maybe there's no best way either. Maybe it's providing alternative ways to respond. Some people like surveys. If I'm really passionate about something, I might like to go and have the open house concept and talk to someone, learn more about it. Whereas another person might like to do a survey. So,
Okay. If we can get some more, I'll get into a couple more details there about the different types of open houses. If you don't mind, if I can just finish off this thing about the survey. And again, the survey itself, is there any questions that, again, you wish people would ask you? Is there, I wish someone would have told me that I'm in a mobility device and my sidewalks are going to get ripped up for 1 month. I wish someone would have told me that type of stuff. So is that Heather's agreeing or?
No, I can speak to that. There's one spot I'm very aware of because it impacts my daughter every time she tries to get any groceries. But there's no clear signage in terms of how to navigate a gap between the road surface and the sidewalk curb cut in that particular spot. And I think both, this isn't necessarily something to put on the survey, but this is something I would love to see is, very clearly delineated alternative accessible pathways during construction sites so that everyone is clear. I think the city did a fantastic job with this during the big dig of Dunlop Street. There were lots of accessibility issues, but there was a clear plan in place for
Mhm.
how I was going to navigate it and how other people like myself were going to navigate it. And the folks on site were very good about supporting that. But I think in some of our less intense projects, that doesn't always happen. And I think, being very clear, like this particular spot, it's at the corner of Blake and Johnson on the southwest side, I think. The only alternative is to go on the road for over 150 meters to get to the driveway of the No Frills Plaza there. And there's no cone set up for safety. There's no sort of clear intentionality for how somebody would get over that gap if
Okay.
they couldn't clear it in their mobility device. So I think that those sorts of things would be very helpful if we
Okay.
could add them to our plans.
Okay. I'll bring that up to my, or not my project manager, but my coworker, let them know about that. So that's a good thing to know. And if you have issues like that for anybody, I mean, you can call in our service Barry and they can direct you to the right project manager to reinforce or, enhance whatever's out there. I see Mr. Thompson, Councillor Thompson has his hand up.
Thanks, through the chair. Mr. King, wouldn't that all take place, Heather's concerns, in like a pre-construction meeting or actually in the tender process? That, like, I know a lot of tenders state that you must maintain accessibility and all that stuff. So that would actually fall on the constructor through city inspection if they're
Yes.
not maintaining. And I think the bylaw is 1.4 meter accessible access, that you can't be putting people, whether they've got mobility issues or not, into live lanes of traffic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it should. And that's what I'm going to follow up with our project manager, just because that's his or her responsibilities. So to make sure that if that has been identified, that they talk to the contractor to get things sorted out. Yes, whenever they do the road reconstruction projects, I'm sure they're aware of those requirements, and they do try to get them mitigated before the project is tendered or as part of the tendered package. But if something they get missed, then we can see what we can do to get that fixed up for you. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. So through you, Madam Chair, if I can look, I think we've talked about the survey enough. It seems to be pretty straightforward. We can add things in there about accessibility, a question about accessibility. We can make that an actual question itself. So we'll do that for you, okay? So the next thing is about the open houses. And what I'll do is I'll share my screen again. And where's my share screen? I think after 2 years of this stuff, I'd have it figured out. So we can see the public open houses. That's the slide there. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, do we see that? I can't see
Public
you
open
now.
houses, yes.
Public open houses, okay. So with the second part of my feedback discussion is about the public open houses. And the intent of these public open houses is to transfer information about design or construction projects. Again, the city does a whole bunch of other different open houses, such as with the planning side of things for the to comply with the Planning Act. Ours aren't always regulatory. However, they're always about passing information to the public. So one of the types of open houses that we have are the on-site one, which was our typical one prior to COVID. It could either be down in the rotunda, or we actually started going out to, I think we had a project in the southwest end. We went and used the Holly Center to try to get closer to the people instead of having to bring everybody downtown. And another one that we do is online, which is, basically what we're doing here. It's live, and people can do a presentation, or they can talk to the project managers or the consultants that are doing the work. So there's that type of thing. And then we would, if there was slide decks, they would get posted on our webpage, so people who could not make it could actually still see what we were talking about. And that would also include any recording. We would potentially put the recording, so people, again, who could not see it or were at it and wanted to see what was kind of review what was said, they can take a look at that recording. So those are some of the on-site and online, and then we get into virtual. And virtual, I think that's a very new technology, and you can get a little an avatar of yourself, and you can walk up to, and it's like a video game, but you can walk into a main welcome area, and then you say, okay, I want to see this open house. And so you go over to a door, and the door basically opens up, and you can go in, and there can be all the displays that people have prepared. There's a question and answer area. There's background information, and then you can walk. It's like I said, it's a bit of a toy. I'm sure all the young kids like it, and some of the other techno geeks would like it too. But it's pretty slick. We've seen them in the Georgian College, how they're doing their open houses for the students. So that's, again, it's kind of a slick thing. And I don't think we've used it. I'm still investigating it to see if there would be any value to it. And the other thing we do is the on-site, which, again, I had mentioned before, where we were redoing a stairway. We wanted to get the public in the area wanted to get their feedback on it. So what we did was we actually went to the stairs themselves and had a couple displays there. It wasn't recorded. That's another thing I'm asking our IT department about. Is this going to be, if we want to record this for people that can't make it, how do we go about doing this? So those are some of the different things that we can talk about. And one of the things that it was also mentioned before was a combination of these. And I like the combination of the afternoon and the evening one, where open houses, where say during the day, the open house is on site or indoors someplace, and then you do the evening one by virtual or online type stuff. So that's what we're kind of trying to do now, is to see if we can take all the good stuff and put it into one package, so that we can, again, share as much information as we can, provide opportunity for feedback, and then surveys in the bottom. It's always good to hear from people. So those are, I'm going to stop sharing here for now. So I guess Heather was talking about the two different, combining everything together. I think, does that seem like a good approach to go down and follow and try to make it work? You like that? Yes?
I think that would be good.
All right. Okay, that's good. Is there, with what you see here, with this online approach, with everyone's faces and all that, You see people coming in doing presentations and getting feedback and all that. Is that, is this a beneficial way you'd want to do it? Or is this something that you would prefer not to do, prefer to get back in everyone's faces again and see each other's faces? Is that?
I think Carolyn wants to say something.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Graham, this I think is a wonderful forum for getting feedback, and I would certainly endorse it 100%, especially in Canada when we're coming into the winter months and people have difficulty accessing or getting out. I think this, with COVID, this has been the benefit to, one of the benefits is people are online much more, they're more familiar, they're not scared of it. It shouldn't be the only avenue, but I think it is a very important avenue. And I think you would get much, much more response by offering an opportunity like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good points about the winter, right? As I look outside, it's such a beautiful day out, and so I like, that's a very good, really good point.
Well, I think it backs up what Louise was saying, that a lot of people are still preferring to do the Zoom and online. So
This takes us back a step, but how do people find out about these surveys and consultations?
Yeah, that's another thing that we're working on. And it's dependent upon what there's a number of different ways that we're considering. And again, each place, each situation is different, but we were looking at putting the surveys all on the webpage. So then whether we send it out by social media to say that, okay, everyone, here's a survey, construction is over for, Mapleview. So can you just, here's a survey if you want to comment on it, and you go to that link. And so there's that. That would also, project signs, you always have, started construction. We want to say end of construction. Thank you very much for all. We realize that we caused you inconvenience. However, here's a survey that we would like you to fill out to see how well we did. So there's those types of things. If it's not if it's a smaller project, like we do stormwater ponds, when there's only 2 or 3 different property owners that back onto that. So what we would do would be hand deliver it. Hand deliver whether the survey or again what do they call them, door hangers with the information newsletters that says, here's here you go, here's the survey. So those are the couple things that we're doing. Can you think of any other way that we would be able to do that?
Do we not utilize City of Barrie correspondence via taxes and water bills, that sort of correspondence? Could we not piggyback those mailers? Like a specific areas, we could go into like the postal codes and then just, print a survey for that area, for example.
Yeah, well, I like that. Yeah, I like that idea. They do that sometimes where they say, here's the project, here's the project, and 500 meters around that project, here's the addresses, and we can do a mail out that way too, or that's also how they define delivering it by hand. But I also like how your suggestion about combining it with the mail outs.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I'm signed up for Access Barrie, and is that a way you could get surveys out and information about open houses and things?
Yes, thank you, Louise. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And I want to bring that up, but I'm going to talk to our communications people and say it was suggested by you folks. So
social media is very good because there are groups for each ward I know that Ward 1 is very, very active. Heather and I live in in Ward 1. So it's very, you know, that's a really good way to get targeted information out. Because as far as I know, all of the ward groups and pages are well used, and people aren't afraid to comment, shall we say.
Which is great. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I've got that myself. I love that little application, so I use it all the time. So
Yeah.
But that's a good idea again. So
Any
Okay.
other comments, questions? I see no hands. Okay.
and that's fine. If there, sorry to interrupt you, but if there's anything else that comes to mind afterwards, again, just send it off to Cheryl. I've been working with her about this, and it was her suggestion that I come talk to you and try to get the direct feedback from you. So, I mean, I really appreciate the work that Cheryl has done with me and our group to try to make this, you know, a better place, having Barrie be a better place by all this different stuff. But I've seen what the group can do with the previous presenter. So it's an important stuff that you're doing. So we want to make sure that that is recognized, and you use you as as a fantastic resource. So I do appreciate it. And again, sorry, I apologize, I cut you off, but
Thank you very much, Graham.
Thanks so
We
much,
appreciate
Graham.
it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
have a
Enjoy
great
you,
the
evening,
rest of your
everybody.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move into item 2.2, and we're looking at the stopgap discussion. And Yolanda, you are there.
Yolanda is here as a community member, so we'll get her to jump in and participate in the discussion. But I just wanted to give some context, some background, and then we can all just swing in and discuss. Okay, so previous committees had been interested in bringing stopgap to the city of Barrie, specifically downtown Barrie businesses. And so efforts were made, and we connected with the founder of Stopgap, Luke Anderson, and he did actually, I think, join us for one of our, or maybe he didn't, maybe one of, like, I think he provided a presentation like online, but we were in person, so it was pre-COVID, and provided tons of information, even provided us, we have like a demo stopgap ramp that I can take to businesses who are interested, walked us through all the ideas of the program. And so for those of you that aren't aware, so stopgap is a ramp system. They're homemade ramps. They're made out of wood, but they're small temporary ramps. And so what that means for businesses is that the ramp goes out at the beginning of the business day, and then it's picked up at the end of the day. And the ramp is made specifically to their entrance specifications. In Barrie, because of the way our business, the businesses are located on the city, adjacent to the city sidewalks, permanent ramp structures are almost impossible to put out because of legal encroachment agreements and safety concerns. And then the narrow space that our sidewalks are in the downtown area. So per the building code, per the safety standards, there's a requirement to have a 1.7 meter clearance all around the ramp. And in some cases that takes up the whole sidewalk. So so for a permanent structure, in order to combat the rise of an entranceway, the ramps have to go, as a few of you know from having them in your homes, the ramps are often, they're kind of done in pieces, or they're straight on in a really long distance in order to mitigate that rise. So the stopgap's perfect because we can get around all of that by having like a small little ramp right at the entrance, just to get over the lip of the business spaces. And so years ago, 2017, 2016, 17, 18, we had worked and we had some interest. We finally got some interest. We finally got a high school that was
Yes.
willing to work with us, and their woodworking group was going to work with us. Previous Accessibility Advisory Committee member, Rob Meyer, he had volunteered as part of his participation in the accessibility and then committee. And then even when that participation stopped and he went on to do other things, he was still connected to that program and to bringing that into businesses. Yolanda Gallo, she is a community member and a former downtown business owner herself. So she participated and was really involved in advocating and connecting with various businesses to get that interest going. And then COVID happened. And like, I think right at the beginning of COVID, like January, February, we had one business, the Farmer Right on Collier Street, that really wanted to get a stopgap. The Stopgap Foundation said, there's no way we won't support a stopgap at that location, just because their entrance, the way it is from an engineering perspective, it's not safe, it's not appropriate to do a stopgap ramp there. They need something more permanent. So that was, Yolanda was involved in that. And I think we were both very sad because we were really hopeful. We were so hopeful.
Yes.
It just takes one business to get a ramp, and then other people want it, and it's like a ripple effect. But there are issues with stopgap ramps. And Doug Shaw, another community member who's a stalwart advocate for accessibility, emailed his concerns about stopgap. And I shared that with the committee this week. So in order for stopgap to work, the city is not involved. Like, the city does not accept any liability. The business has to sign a waiver that's provided to them as part of their package with the Stopgap Foundation, where they accept 100% of the liability. So that is sometimes a bit of a hurdle, because some businesses, they're just not interested in doing that. And so, it's up to them, right? It's certainly up to them. But there's ways to kind of get around or mitigate that, I should say. And one of the ways they do is they paint these stopgap ramps bright colors so that they stand out, so that they're not a tripping hazard and things like that. And this summer, we had a local business, Bohemia Cafe, reach out to say, hey, I am interested in stopgap. Can we bring one for my store? Yeah, I know, right, Heather? So I said, it's so interesting that you're saying this, because one of our Accessibility Advisory Committee members reached out, like it was almost within weeks that you guys both reached out, and Heather had said, hey, can we put this back on the agenda in September? So here we are. Okay, so I'm gonna stop talking. You guys, let's talk about it. Do we want to promote this in the next coming months, in the new year? Do we want to reach out to Simcoe County School Board? Do we want to get another school involved to see if that's a possibility? Share. What are your thoughts?
Heather. Sorry, Heather has her hand up. I'd like to let Heather go first.
Sorry, I was going to say I can wait if you've got other plans, Catherine. I always have thoughts, you know me. So I wanted to respond a little bit to Dawn's concerns, because I think that there is a gap between the ideal and the reality. And as much as I would love to see the full reality, the full ideal take place. And, we had conversations about this even when plans were underway for the downtown redo. Could we do anything at that point to encourage ramping or to provide ramping to the businesses in question? And we were told that it just simply was not an option engineering wise at that point, even with the sidewalks being under construction. So I think that we've done everything we could to do the ideal situation. And in the meantime, there are many businesses downtown where it's a single step between me and whatever's delicious and wonderful inside of that building. And obviously it's not just me. So I think that coming up with an alternative is worth pursuing, even though it's not ideal. And I think that the way that we communicate that, especially through the downtown BIA and to residents like Dawn, is really crucial, so that people understand the reasons why this is the best option for us at this point. That being said, one of the communities that I've seen it deployed in extensively is Stratford. And the way that I think it may have been because of that liability piece, the way that it was actually put in place was that in most of the stores, you had to be able to send someone into the store to get someone from the store to come out and put the ramp out each and every time somebody wanted to come in. And that does not work. If stores don't want to keep the ramp out at all times, then they need to have a doorbell with clear indications of what you should do and what you will get, and maybe a little picture of a ramp so that people can tell this is how you get the ramp so that you can get in. And I think particularly when we're talking about ramps and folks with mobility devices, having symbolic options in terms of communication is a really crucial piece of that, not just written text, because lots of people aren't able to access that text in the same way. So those are my two thoughts. I think we should do it. I think we should communicate the reasons why the reality is our best option, because the ideal is not a possibility. And I think we need to make it very, very easy for people to independently access those ramps.
Yes.
That is crucial, because there are myths out there that disabled people always come with a minder, and I don't, although maybe I should.
Thank you, Heather. Carolyn.
Thank you, Catherine. I don't think this is the purview of this committee, because this committee is designed to advise the council. And if we get more involved in this, then it would appear to the novice that we are endorsing it. And that has been very clear that the city is not endorsing it. It's supporting it, but it is not endorsing it. So that would be my concern, is that it's a wonderful idea. It's certainly the BIA, I think, should be the leaders, but I don't think this committee, I really don't think it's the falls under our mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'll just segue just before you go to Louise and Yolanda. So I did invite the Craig Stevens from the BIA, I think he's the president, and then one of the other foundation director members to this meeting today because of this topic, and he's very much on board. He's supportive of Bohemia's request and their interest. He would like to support it, to bring it to the downtown area, but he wasn't able to attend. Something had come up. So that's good feedback, Carolyn, that we can provide to, that Tammy and I can provide to Craig and his fellow people in the minutes, etc. Because maybe, like, I don't know how we do this. We've tried to do this for years and it hasn't happened. So maybe this isn't something that the city does and the Accessibility Advisory Committee does. Maybe this is something that we support And the BIA does with the support of the city's accessibility advisory, advisory committee and guidance from the, I don't know, but we can definitely make sure that we provide that information to the BIA.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, Cheryl, what you just said. Yolanda.
Well, I'm 1,000% in support of this stopgap program. As Cheryl was saying, pre-COVID, it was almost like we were, getting a lot of excitement happening. We had a poster done up. We reached out to different community groups through the Community Wholeness Center. We managed to get $1,500 from the Kiwanis Club. CWC itself is dissolving, but the programs that it has started are still continuing. So the tax program, for example, is still continuing through another group. The stopgap program, when
Sorry,
Cheryl.
Yolanda, what's CWC?
Oh, it was the Community Wholeness Center. It was located at 59 Maple Avenue. It is now Shack's Community Center. So CWC basically ran into a home office and then did everything virtually during COVID. We were the only organization that provided free income tax clinics during COVID. No one else in the city were doing it. So we were successful in doing that. But the stopgap, of course, because of the downtown reconstruction, and we did identify 25 businesses, I believe, Cheryl, there was about 25 businesses in downtown Barrie that did not have ramps. And the argument was, and it wasn't just for people with wheelchairs, it's accessible for service deliveries, seniors, strollers. So that was the selling point on like when I started promoting it. So, and like Cheryl said, we did have one business who was interested, but because the design wasn't right, because they had an entrance, but then they had another entrance to go into the store. So it just wasn't feasible. So I guess my point is we have $1,500 that will go to the stopgap program. And if the high school, the woodworking program, I think it's very not central. What school was it? Collegiate. I think it was very collegiate. So if they're interested in pursuing this stopgap, I mean, I told Cheryl that I would continue to be a volunteer and work with this stopgap program, whether it's with BIA or with the accessibility committee. All I need to know is who is going to stay on board and who I would then give the money to so that they can buy materials and supplies, because apparently pre-COVID, now maybe the prices have changed because the cost of wood and everything has gone up, but the ramps were only about $300 to make. So, $1,500 would probably give us 5 ramps, 4 ramps, 5 ramps, depending. So there's $1,500 to continue the stopgap program. I know now that the Dunlop Street renovation or reconstruction is complete. Heather, Bohemian was one on the list. That would be a really good start to promote it and maybe get all the other businesses on board. So I'll take advice or whatever you want me to do. I will gladly participate and help continue.
Well, I think our next steps are formulating right as we're speaking. So thank you so much, Yolanda. But I think Louise had her hand up. So let's.
Yes, Louise. Louise, go ahead.
Sorry.
First of all, I was going to say hello, Yolanda. I just twigged. I just twigged you're Yolanda Gallo, right?
Yes, and I know you.
I was just going to say that I know this in the city of Aurelia there are stopgap ramps, and I made use of one, even though I'm not in a wheelchair. I had to make use of one because the step was really, really deep. And then when I got in the door, I saw the sign that it was a stopgap ramp. I thought it was metal though.
Oh,
Stopgap ramps are wood.
They're
So
wood? Okay.
yes, but there are other types of temporary ramps that are available. Like, for example, John Tom, who a lot of us know,
Mhm.
has a lot of medical, aids, like specific designed ramps that are made out of aluminum
Mhm.
that can be used for temporary kind of things. But
Yeah.
the actual
Used
stopgap
them at the
pro,
fashion show. Yeah.
yeah, so the stopgap program is they're wooden ramps. Yeah.
Wouldn't- Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a great idea anyways. And how we can promote awareness of it to the downtown people would be great.
Mhm.
I think it is a matter of taking it to the BIA to see what they will do, and following up with them as much as we need to. But I think it's something that I think we probably all feel that we should be supporting this in principle. And at this point, I would say speak to the BIA and leave the building, the measurements, the technical things to someone or some group that is better than we are at measuring and figuring out. So I don't know what everybody else feels. And then I suppose there's the question of the $1,500 that Yolanda has brought to the table. Maybe that is also something that would spur on the BIA and also
Yeah.
just one more thing. I mean, letting them know that they have $1,500 to work with. I think that's probably a good idea. And I mean, we want to see as many as we can, but we also need to keep in mind that this is a voluntary initiative, and each business, I mean, I think probably we all think it's good for business, but there are some who may not want to participate. And, some places like Bohemia will show them how it's done and, take some of the fear out of it, maybe.
You just need one. Exactly. You just need one. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So I think for next steps, Yolanda, I think you and I will connect offline. And I will follow up with Craig and the other members of the BIA to just kind of let them know the state of where we're at with this, let them know that, it feels like maybe the consensus is that the BIA is better positioned to kind of champion, like not champion to run with this, but that we can help champion it, we can help support it. But you're like, Carolyn, your point is well taken. The Accessibility Advisory Committee is an advisory committee of council and advising municipal issues, municipal facilities, et cetera, et cetera. So technically we don't have a lot of influence over businesses. Like they're in our municipality. So we want to, yell as loudly as we can about accessibility so that they, drink the Kool-Aid and do what they can to make everything accessible. But Catherine's point is very true. We can't make them do it, but we can inspire them. But if the BIA is kind of helping to promote this, there is the City of Barrie does have a funding vehicle, like a fundraising vehicle on the official Stopgap Foundation website. So anybody can donate money to the City of Barrie's Stopgap initiative through the Stopgap Foundation. But the funds from the Kiwanis Club is really great to kick it off. And maybe that's what we need to get the Bohemia Stopgap and then inspire as many people as possible for the nice holiday season just around the corner and holiday shopping in the downtown. I don't know, I'm just making things
That
up,
would be
but
great.
yeah. So I think even though we won't have a committee meeting between now and the new year, because this topic is kind of a hot topic, if you don't mind, I'll email you all what's happening. I recognize you're busy. So don't feel like you have to respond to me, but if you're interested, absolutely reach out. If you have questions or, you know, something pops up for you about this, let me know, because I don't think like everybody thinks. I don't think like you think. I don't have your experiences. So you might come up with something that's really critical. So don't be shy. Okay. So that's how we'll go forward. And Yolanda, we'll try to resurrect this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carolyn?
Catherine, I think this would be a wonderful project for a service club. If the Rotary, for instance, were to go with it, or if the BIA could get a service club, I think it would be an excellent project for them.
Agreed.
But the Kiwanis, I think, has already kind of jumped on board and said,
Yeah.
yes, we're supporting this. You know, we're giving you $1,500. So
Yeah, Kiwanis
I'd
is-
like to not exclude the Kiwanis. They're the ones that have put up the money.
But maybe,
Absolutely not. No, I think it's wonderful that we already have that money.
Yes,
or
yes.
maybe Yolanda, the Kiwanis Club would like it as a project of theirs. If they've already provided money, maybe this could be their project for this year.
I could bring that, I'll bring that to their attention. We have a meeting I think there's a meeting coming up. We're meeting on Sunday. I'll speak to the chair, and then we have our 100th anniversary party next Saturday. But yes, I need to address
So, if you're meeting with them on Sunday, Yolanda, I'm gonna call you tomorrow so that we can kind of talk a little bit more about this, so that you can share some more information with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Okay.
that would be good. And maybe you can draft like a letter if you wanted to.
Okay, yeah, we'll
For
chat.
them.
We'll chat tomorrow. Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we should probably move on. We've got a couple of items left here. The parks planning update. Cheryl.
Yes, hi. So Kevin Bradley and his staff were not able to attend tonight's meeting, but they did have information that they wanted me to share. So they so kindly sent me an email. So he's got 2 big projects that he really wanted you guys to know about. The one is St. Vincent's Park Play Space, and the Painswick Park redevelopment and pickleball facility. So for St. Vincent's Park Play Space, the project is progressing well. The play equipment, including the WeGo swing, is a long lead item. So which means it's 4 months delivery from time of order. So he said that they don't expect delivery until late October to early November, but the project is on schedule, and it is being constructed in a manner that is keeping with the conceptual plan that was presented to the AAC and was agreed upon and supported by you guys. He anticipates completion will still occur in 2022, but with the space not being ready for use, like for full active promoted use, until 2023. I think our staff have a general acceptance for our public spaces, that people will use things and walk through them and do what they do regardless of what state they're in. So we're just not promoting it fully until the spring of 2023. And there may be some equipment that's like locked down and cordoned off for safety. I don't know. He didn't specify, but he did say that they expect the project to be completed in 2022, but fully accessible and ready for use in 2023. And so certainly if there's any kind of promotional city ribbon cutting, he would love it if the Accessibility Advisory Committee members could attend. And obviously the Rimmer family, who've inspired the wheelchair swing and the redevelopment of the park, would be invited as well. And then The next update about Painswick Park redevelopment and pickleball facilities. So Kevin says that the design build project has commenced, and that includes 2 elite accessible size courts as part of the 8 new courts that are going to be added to that space. There's going to be accessible parking to be constructed adjacent to the accessible courts, new asphalt pathways with lighting throughout the park to connect the various features, including the addition of 1 connecting path from the ex pickleball and tennis courts, the ones that are currently there. And he's mentioning something. He's saying that Marie Francis suggested this. So he's got a question mark there. So Marie Francis, you can maybe speak to that. And then construction's to commence this fall. But that one is a much more involved space, and it also kind of abuts onto some schools. So there are some certain delays and things like that they have to adhere to. And so that project won't actually be fully completed until August of 2023.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can speak to that.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure,
very
yeah.
briefly.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to.
Yeah, that's the park nearest my house that I take the kids to. So DJ and I, this is my son, Jose. We went to that when they did their little presentation in the park about
okay.
it.
Yes. Yeah, because he said he's got his notes. He said that you were at an open house. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was the open house we went to, and that was DJ's foray into municipal politics, getting to see how things work. And so we just reviewed the plans and noticed that there was no link between the tennis courts and there's not currently a link there, and there was no plans to create one. And so it's quite going up from the parking lot. There's quite a hill, and then it's just challenging to access the tennis courts. And so my request was that they pave something just to complete the link, so that you could get from. So that you can maneuver the park more
Perfect.
easily.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love it. That's awesome.
Great.
Well, he's gonna do it. So yay for you. Yeah.
All right, I'll let DJ know. I'll let DJ know.
Okay.
Attending public meetings and participating in your local democracy is important.
It is important. Yes. You teach that kid. Yeah.
That is terrific. Oh. Okay, I guess it's the last item now. Bradford Street reconstruction project. We have an update.
It doesn't look like Brett is here. So let me just see. He said he was gonna email me something if he couldn't come. So just 1 minute. He's busy project managers. Okay, yes, he has it here. So he's saying the Bradford Street reconstruction project, they're planning a 3rd EA public meeting, an information session late fall, early winter to present the preferred design alternative to everybody who's interested. He said information on the date of the public information meeting will be shared with the committee and posted on the project website in the next few weeks. So that's great, but taking in the information and the perspectives that was shared tonight with Graham, I think if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to him and suggest that he consider making a virtual option available for the members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. I know from a lot of other accessibility meetings that I attend, so there are different committees that I'm involved in that are provincial-wide committees. And this isn't an issue just in Barrie, it's every municipality. And it's just the idea that someone with a disability has to do so much more. There's so many more things that they have to consider in order to get out of the house on any given day. And if they're going to attend a public meeting, sometimes they have to book in advance for accessible transit. There's, as you all know, there's multiple things that have to be considered. So if Brett is thinking that he's not going to be having this until late fall, early winter, that kind of ups the stakes for the things that are going to have to be a concern. You know, like, are you going to wait outside for an hour in the cold for a BAX bus or public, you know, a specialized transit bus? You'll do it because you have to, but you don't want to. So if I can avoid that, I'd like to. So I'll reach out to him about that. It's not it's not clear what kind of public session he's going to have, but I'm guessing, because he is part of the engineering group, that it would just be a standard public session that is like, come to the rotunda and give us your thoughts, or come to one of our rec centers or the South Shore Center and give us your thoughts, which is, they're all great options. But I'm just taking that feedback from Graham's thing. I'll see if we can get something alternative, and then let you guys know.
And just on the transportation, I'm still in contact with one of our members who is in a wheelchair, and he was saying, I mean, he talks about his frustration with transit all the time, and, you know, on our streets and buses and so on. But he mentioned a few weeks ago that there was one of the city's transportations is down. Apparently there's 2 vehicles and they're down to 1 because one is in repairs. So I don't know about
we
that
have
one.
more. Well, yeah, that doesn't sound right to me, because we do have more than 2 specialized vehicles. If we had only 2, that would be, I can't even describe to you how awful that would be. Like, our system is not perfect, but we do speak to transit frequently. They patiently come to this committee and listen to us complain often. So my advice to you, Yolanda, for that community member, is to let them know if they have concerns, they can reach out directly to transit. Like, they're very responsive. Or anytime, like, these meetings are public, and anytime there is a committee meeting with a transit component, check the agendas are available online. And if there's ever an agenda that's interesting to that individual, they can join us and raise their concerns with the committee. So certainly, yeah.
I'll let him know.
Definitely. So that's it for me for now. I don't know if maybe we could get Catherine to officially close the meeting, and then perhaps Tammy can speak to us just a little wee bit about the lack of meetings for the remainder of the year.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I will officially adjourn the meeting, and I want to thank everyone. Do you want everyone to stay, Tammy, or? Yes. Okay. You're on mute, but I could read your lips. Okay. So
No, it's 2020, right?
That's right. We will adjourn, and Tammy will speak with us. So the recording is going to stop now.